Hey everybody, welcome back to On Point with Building Integrity. I'm your host, Josh Porter, and today we're going to be talking about the bidding process, kind of a little bit of a crash course in that, but specifically focusing on a term I like to use called the automatic assumption of equality. Okay, so first we kind of need to define the automatic assumption of equality. It's something that I have experienced over the years in my career doing engineering, specifically for bidding out projects, capital projects for properties, large properties, buildings. And one of the things I have learned is that it almost seems like no matter what is written on the contractor's bid, or if an engineer is bidding on a job for that matter, that if you are a building owner, or you're on the board of a condo or an HOA, or you're a large property owner, or even a homeowner, if you are receiving three bids to do a job, for example, replace your roof, you I have found over and over and over again so many people that, well, I called contractor A and I asked them to replace my roof. I called contractor B and I asked them to replace my roof. And I called contractor C and I asked them to replace my roof. I got three bids. And the three bids could be wildly different as far as the materials and scope and the way they're going to do the job. But it seems like people only ever just go down to the bottom and look at the price and they pick the cheapest guy. And I have called this the automatic assumption of equality because what I have learned is that a lot of people, when they go through the process of bidding out a job, either for an engineer or for a contractor, that they will conclude that these all must be good and honest people and they're all going to do a good job and use the proper products, and therefore all I need to look at is the price. And there's a bunch of problems with this, and we'll go through them, and then I'll give you guys some tips. One of the differences that you really need to consider is really the qualifications of the contractor. Many times, contractors and engineers will bid on jobs and give you a figure to do a job that they're not qualified to do. They may think they're qualified to do it, but they're really not. And then the problem is, if you end up hiring one of these guys that is not qualified, then you could end up with a lot of problems down the road. The other thing too you need to consider is that you might have a contractor that's qualified to do the work, or an engineer that's qualified to do the work, but they really don't have the manpower or availability to get the job done in a timely manner. So part of the process too you need to be able to be thinking about is, okay, well, this is a good contractor. I've heard wonderful things about them, and I've read their bid. I like it, but can they actually get it done in the time frame that they say they can get it done? The other thing to consider is products and methodology that is going to be used. This specifically leans more towards contractors than engineers. But the question is are they all bidding the same products? Well, one of the things I have learned after reviewing bids, not bids that I have bid out on jobs where I've prepared the specifications, but bids where a client hires me to review bids that they have already received. One of the things that I have learned is that contractors will oftentimes bid to what I call the lowest common denominator. So like an example would be, let's say you have a roof on your building, and it's a shingle roof, and you want to have a metal roof put onto it. So you call three contractors, and what's going to happen is that there are predominantly two types of metal roofs out there, at least particularly that are very popular in our area, neck of the woods, and that is a standing seam metal roof, which is a more expensive, higher quality system. And then there's like a fastened type system, which is what we call the 5V crimp profile, which is the most popular profile of the fastened roof systems. Well, that's a cheaper system to put in. So if a contractor is asked to come out and bid on a job, and they're told that you want a metal roof, a lot of contractors will not bid a standing seam metal roof because they know it's the more expensive option, and they know that if it's being competitively bid, that somebody else is going to propose to do a 5V crimp roof. So there's nothing like wrong with a 5V crimp roof, but without having some sort of standard to go by, what most contractors are going to do is they're going to select the cheapest product and the cheapest methodology to put it on, in order to make sure that their bid is competitive. Because at the end of the day, they really care about getting the work, which is fine. So with all these things kind of in mind, you have to realize that it's not, that you have to be reviewing these bids, and you can't just automatically assume that they're all going to be equal, that they're all giving you the right thing. Or even if you did read the bids and every bid came back and it all said 5V crimp, is that actually the right product for your application or for your job? So here's some tips I have for owners. I'm going to kind of read them off to you. If you are a building owner, if you're on the board of a condo association or an HOA, or you're just a homeowner, here's 3 tips I have for you. First tip is to bid only to pre-qualified contractors. So if you're on the board of a condo or an HOA, the only way you can know if a contractor is pre-qualified to do the work that needs to be done on your specific project is to hire an engineer that's experienced in overseeing those types of projects, and an engineer that's familiar with these contractors, has overseen all of these contractors on previous projects, and can attest at least to their qualifications that they are capable of doing this job and they are an appropriate firm to do it. If you're a homeowner and it's a smaller job, you've got to do your homework, okay? You've got to get on the internet, you've got to call people, you got to call your local builders exchange, you need to reach out to your chamber of commerce. But one of the things I would urge you to do is avoid pay-to-play services. And what I mean by that, and I won't use any of their names specifically, but there are lots of websites out there that say, oh, here you can find a contractor fast and stuff like that. And what these services basically are is they're advertising outlets for contractors to basically pay to be on their site. Well, if they do a terrible job and you write a negative review, a lot of these websites and a lot of these organizations that host these pay-to-play services for contractors and construction have an ability for these contractors to essentially pay to get the negative reviews of their business off of the website. So, what does it mean really then if you hire a contractor that has 5-star rating on this app or on that website? You have no idea whether they're really a good contractor or whether they're qualified to do the work or not. And a lot of really good contractors that are out there don't even participate or belong to these pay-to-play services. So I would avoid those. I would stick to your chamber of commerce, stick to your local building exchange, stick to local realtors, other contractors, people in the industry, family, friends. But you got to do your homework and find people that are pre-qualified and that have done good work for other people in the past. So that's the first tip. Bid only to pre-qualified contractors. Second tip is to have specifications prepared before bidding out the work. And so what I mean by that is, again, for the big projects in life, for you big property owners, for you condo boards and HOA boards, what you're going to need to do is, again, hire an engineer. You need somebody who understands the work that needs to be done, that can write a specification that specifies exactly what is to be done, what extent is to be done, how many square feet of this is going to get replaced, what products should be used, how the products should be applied. Is it 2 coats of waterproofing or 3 coats of waterproofing? Okay, and everything needs to be spelled out and specified, and then that gets put out to bid. And what happens in that situation is then you end up with what we call apples to apples bidding. So you can easily compare contractor A to contractor B to contractor C. And if it goes through the engineering firm, the engineer, when they receive back that bid, they can evaluate the bid and say, yes, they are conforming to my specifications and my products and everything else. And so therefore, then you can have this feeling of automatic assumption of equality. You have this better feeling that, okay, the engineer we've gone through this process, we have vetted these contractors, and we know that they all meet the standards of materials and methodologies, and therefore we can just look at the bottom line if we want to, and we have some level of confidence that we'll get a good job. But the third item is, third tip for owners is to review and interview. So review the bid in detail, line by line, and then I always recommend having a post-bidding interview with the contractors that you are most interested in. This is your opportunity to grill them with questions. How are you going to do the job? How many men are you going to put on the project? How long is the project going to take? When are you going to, access units? How long do we need to be out of our house in order to get this work done? So review and interview is the third tip. I also have some tips for contractors. Because again, this channel isn't just for the end user. It's not just for homeowners, but it's also for engineers and contractors, hopefully to take some tips and advice away and make the industry better. So first tip for contractors is do not lower your standards in order to compete. Okay, this is what's so pervasive and what's so problematic in our industry. I understand that you are competing against contractors that will cut corners and will take shortcuts and will put on that 2-coat waterproofing instead of the 3-coat that you know should be there. But what you need to do is not lower your standards in order to compete, because what it does is it ends up lowering the standards for the whole industry. Okay, we all have an ethical obligation to the end user to do a good job and to bid jobs ethically. Second tip is do not bid on a job sight unseen. Go to the job site. You want to land more contracts? This is what I tell all my guys that work for me. You go and meet people eye to eye, shake their hand, or in this day and age, give them an elbow bump or a fist bump. But go and meet these people, walk the job site, become familiar with the actual site conditions. Don't just bid a job sight unseen. You got to go there. You got to see it. Okay. Tip number 2. Now, tip number 3 is to, and this kind of goes back to the first one about not lowering your standards. Tip number 3 is to emphasize your unique qualifications. Okay. Or your products that you're using. So emphasize your unique qualifications or products in your bid. And by doing this, you keep your standards high. So take the example that we talked about earlier, the standing seam metal roof versus the 5V crimp. If you know the standing seam metal roof is the proper thing to put on their building, you need to bid the 5V crimp, or you need to bid the standing seam roof, and you need to explain in a cover letter, in an interview, request an interview after the bid, say, hey, we submitted that bid last week. We would love to come down and talk to you and discuss it with you. But you've got to be able to emphasize why that product was the better product, or emphasize why your firm can handle this and other firms can't. So in doing that, what you're going to do is you're going to find that you're going to land more projects, and they're going to be projects of higher quality, higher standard. The clients are going to end up with a better end product, and at the end of the day, it's probably going to be a slightly more expensive project if you happen to be one of those high quality, more expensive contractors. So anyway, hopefully everybody got something from this video. I tried to keep it short today. If you have any questions or comments, hit us up and let me know what you think. Thanks.